Hello there. How's everyone doing today? It's Loren from Tanglewood in Costa Rica. It is a beautiful Friday morning. I know you probably get tired of hearing that because they're almost always beautiful Friday mornings. But it's a beautiful morning, and I'm here to spend some time with you today. Happy to share anything I can. Hello, Stephanie. How are you? Good to see you. How did the titling go with Las Cascadas? Well, it turned out we had a minor issue, so it'll probably be next week. Um, it turns out that what's going to make sense is to get a separate corporation set up first. And so the lawyer is on that. It should be about a week. Once that corporation is set up, she told me it'd be maximum of 8 days. And that was, I think, 2 days ago we had that conversation. So, 3 days ago. So it should be done by, say, Wednesday. As soon as it's done, we'll meet and we'll get that paperwork done. In the meantime, I made another payment to them anyway because they had planned on getting a payment from me then. So I went ahead and made the payment, even though we haven't done the work yet, because it wasn't their fault. And it's moving forward. It's all good. Let's see. Bob says, "Buenos dias. Your thoughts on the coronavirus?" Okay. Well, honestly, I don't know much about it. I've been so busy here. I haven't really had much time to follow the news. I understand that it is, let's see, what do I know about that? In fact, I thought maybe I would do a video talking about that, but I have to do a little bit more research before I really can get clear on my own thoughts. I mean, I don't want to make an opinion without much information. Hello there. Hello, buddy. This is Ash right here. You've seen him before. Some of you have seen him before. It's funny because he was the most reluctant, the least social initially, the one that would run away as soon as we got close to him. Now he's usually the first one to jump on my lap. Anyway, yeah, so I can tell you what little I know about the coronavirus. Many of you are probably following it more closely than I am because I don't get television. I don't pay much attention to the news. I'm just so busy here. We're just incredibly busy right now. It keeps me, 18 hours a day every day, and I don't really have time to keep up with emails. I mean, even fasting registration forms, which is crazy. I'm behind on, quite behind on. We're so busy. But anyway, so started in China. I believe it had something to do with some bad soup or something initially, they said. But most people exposed to it become infected, and 15% of the people infected will die from it. And so there have been already, a fair number of deaths early on, and it looks like it's likely will be spreading because there are people who left who were probably infected and have already traveled elsewhere. And so, but it's probably going to become a bigger issue, and there are people who believe it's going to become a very big deal, but I don't really know. Now, personally, I wouldn't worry about it, and this may sound crazy to you, but I would. I mean, if I had plans to travel to that part of China and they let me in, they probably wouldn't at this point. I would go there with no hesitation because I believe that if the immune system is healthy enough, there's really nothing to worry about. Okay. And that's all we can do. I mean, again, I know there are people right now who are really freaked out about this. And because there are people who freak out about everything. Personally, I don't freak out. Okay, so there's a virus, we're all going to die. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the very best care of myself possible, to the extent that my current commitments allow me to do that. And if that's all I can do, I can make the best choices I can. I can take care of myself, knowing that that's going to be my very best bet of faring well should I become exposed to something. And then whatever happens, happens. I'm just not going to worry about it. Okay. All right. Hello, Marike. Nice to see you. How are you? Eric, good to see you. I'm glad you're here. You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here. Sheer, nice, good to see you. Glad you're here. Eric says, you said the time When growth hormones are high is a good time for muscle growth and therefore a good time to exercise. But the exercise phase of strength building is when we break down muscles. Yeah, that's right. But this is when we want to be exercising, is when we're breaking down muscles. And as soon as we're done breaking down the muscles, as soon as we stop exercising, the body begins to rebuild when we're resting. And so it doesn't change the timing. We still want to be exercising in this state, in this fasted state. We're still going to get the best benefits. Yes, of course. I think everyone is probably aware that exercising breaks down muscle, and then we rebuild later on as when we rest. But, oh, ow, that hurts. Oh, gee. Okay. They crawl on me, and I've got these very thin cotton pants on, and so the claws go right through them. It's different if I'm wearing a pair of heavy shorts. Hey, no, please don't do that. All right, where are we? Hey, Tony, how are you? Good to see it. Good to see you. Yes, it is still sunny here. It's sunny here, of course, almost all the time. This is the dry season, so it's pretty much sunny every day. We had 2 days of rain, actually, not yesterday, but the day before and the day before that, it actually rained here, which is really unusual this time of year. So we had a lot of cloudy hours those 2 days. We had a little bit of sun, but mostly clouds. But this time of year, typically it's sunny all day, every day. And it's certainly now. The sun came up this morning. It's still bright and sunny. It's not likely to change much. Okay, so let's see here. We have a donation from Venshin Migtao. Funny thing is that I haven't gotten a single cold since I got cancer. Could be the fasting, lost 92 pounds. Could be all the vitamin C I'm taking. Yeah, it could be. First of all, thank you very much for the donation. I don't mean to overlook that. I really appreciate it very much. And for those of you, if anyone here is new to my live broadcast, this is something that Guzel, who does the videos and sort of runs the YouTube channel for me now for the most part. It's frustrating. She still expects me to do things. Like if there's only one video up per week, it's because I got so busy I forgot to make one live. And that happens because she wants me to ultimately do the description. She's not a native English speaker. She's Russian. Her English is excellent, but she wants me to do that rather than her do it herself. And so sometimes I forget. But anyway, she activated this thing where you can do donations when I'm live. And when people do, I won't stop in the middle of a sentence, but it's the next thing I'll get to would be their question or comment in this case. So yes, it could indeed be that because you're taking a lot of vitamin C, that will often prevent colds from appearing. It could be, it's possible that it's not a completely positive thing. I don't know. Unfortunately, with cancer, it could be that your body is no longer able to cleanse as well. But hopefully, because you're now making healthier choices, and by making healthier choices, your body is now better able to cleanse, and simply because of what you're doing, no longer needs to do what it was needing to do before. It's entirely possible that's what's going on, and I hope so. All right, let me scroll back up here for a second. Boy, it's just trying to figure out where we were. Okay, so Sheer had said, can you talk a little bit about insomnia and fasting? About 50% of the time I skip a day of eating, I can't fall asleep. Okay, sure. It's a great question. One of the things when people fast, they often have trouble sleeping. Now, some people sleep 12 hours every night while they're fasting, but other people find that their sleep patterns are dramatically affected. For many people, they fall asleep later. They wake up to pee and they have trouble getting back to sleep. They may wake up earlier, although usually it's earlier in the evening, like falling asleep later is the issue. Why is this? What's going on? Well, what's going on is that when it gets dark out and we sleep, and when we sleep, even if it's not dark out, but even at night, what typically happens is, even when we're not fasting, when you're sick, you often will see that your symptoms are worse at night. And that happens because when it's dark, our hormonal cycles are largely governed, partially governed by cycles of light and dark. And when it gets dark, everything calms down, right? The body moves into a more restful state, and that liberates energy that the body can use to cleanse and heal. When you skip a meal and have trouble sleeping, it's because that skip meal means that your body is detoxing. People think, oh, I can't sleep when I'm hungry, but it's not about that. There's no problem sleeping when you're hungry. It's perfectly fine. Being hungry isn't a terrible situation. I mean, it is often painful for people, but it's not because of the lack of food. It's because the body's detoxifying. Now, again, imagine you lived in nature. Imagine that you were one of these species. Let's say you're a carnivore that needs to go find, hunt, catch and kill prey. You might get a meal every several days. In the meantime, when you're hungry, what happens? Are you unable to function? How would that work? Like, how useful would it be if not eating meant that you were so tired you couldn't function, you couldn't think, you had no energy? It doesn't work that way, and it's a good thing it doesn't. That's just not the way it actually happens in nature. In nature, what happens? A little wrestling match going on here. What happens in nature is that you get hungry, and it's a pleasant tickling sensation. Your body is clearly telling you that it's time to look for some food, but it's no big deal. If you eat, great. If you don't eat, it's fine. You should continue being able to function perfectly well for at least several days before you're really affected. And that's what I personally find. If I skip meals, if I do a short fast of 4 or 5 days, I'm barely affected at all by it. The reason people are so affected when they don't eat, when they fast, skip a meal, or skip many meals, is because of the detoxification going on. So it's important to understand that. Okay. All right, where were we? Okay, Bakul says, what was your main source of knowledge in the 80s and 90s? Main source of knowledge around health? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking me, because let's see, I graduated from college in 1984, and it was that year. It was within 6 months, so it would have been by the end of 84, early 85, that I found myself very ill. And back then, I spent 3 years going to doctors. I didn't really have any particular knowledge. I mean, I had started studying nutrition in 1975, 76, but I hadn't really paid much attention to it recently. And at that point was simply trusting, conventional medicine as I'd grown up with, and hadn't really thought much beyond about it beyond that. After 3 years of getting worse with medicine, I realized that medicine was only suppressing symptoms, wasn't helping me, was making me worse. And that's when I started actively thinking, like, I'm going to figure out how to get healthy. And I realized that ultimately that what I needed to do was align my diet with what was natural for the body. And so at that point, much of my thinking came from me much of my knowledge came from me thinking about what was natural for the body. It became obvious that, all you have to do is a little bit of study into human physiology. So I studied physiology. I actually took a course in physiology in school. And so I understood something about that, and started looking at, thinking about what was natural for our bodies. Clearly not animal products, clearly not processed foods. As I changed. Now, later on, I was introduced to natural hygiene and read pretty much everything I could get my hands on. I started going to natural hygiene conferences. I had several powerful mentors, Herbert Shelton, who I never met, and T.C. Fry, his student. They were both mentors of mine. But they were also people I met. I learned a lot from Joel Fuhrman, although, he's since made a deal with the devil and now sells supplements, and decided fasting was too difficult a way to make a living. He used to fast people as well. Wrote a great book about fasting. he's very, very conservative. He's a doctor and still prescribed medicine the whole time. I mean, even while he was on this hygienic journey for all those years, he was still prescribing drugs when drugs were not necessary in most cases. So there was always some issues there. But let's see, Alec Burton, amazing guy, who was a friend and a mentor, and who died. He was in Sydney, Australia, and he died, about 2 years ago. William Esser was another one. He was down in Palm Beach, Florida, an amazing guy, a gentleman, a true scholar, just a wealth of knowledge. And I learned from many of the other hygienic guys, although some of them were easier. I mean, some of them were, I learned some information from, but there was no real connection with. There were some pretty difficult personalities and some strange people in some cases, people that I just never connected with personally. Let me say it that way. It's not how they were strange. It's just there was no real connection. But there were several very powerful mentors, and I've read everything I could find. But honestly, nature's been my biggest teacher, always has been. Right? The answers lie in nature, and where I have dared to suggest that Herbert Shelton, the guru, might have been wrong. I've had people say things like, who are you to argue with Herbert Shelton? Well, I'm a living guy who's got a good working brain, and who is alive today with information and tools available that Shelton didn't have available. We can measure hydration levels. So where he might have thought that a certain amount of water was enough for somebody, we can actually measure and see what's happening. We've got tools available that he didn't have available to him. And we have things available that I don't think he ever really recognized, some of the relationships that because of these other tools I've been able to recognize. But anyway, I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Bakul says, how is omega-3 compensated for during a long fast? Well, it's like everything else. The body has very few nutrient needs while fasting. So, there's all these crazy people that are afraid if they fast 3 or 4 days without consuming salt, they're going to be in trouble. And yet my average client fast is 26 days and people consume only water. And I've now taken close to 1,000 people, 6 weeks or longer. We had a couple more people this session. Actually, I have a guy who his 40th day is today, because he got here late. Would have been his 42nd day, but he'll start eating tomorrow. And these people consume only water. This is what happens. So there's we simply don't need to worry about these nutrients. Yes, these are real needs of the body. But something happens, and I say something happens as opposed to exactly what happens, because frankly, nobody really knows. It's a mystery how it is that our nutrient needs dramatically diminish. And an example I've used many times before, 4 to 6 weeks without consuming vitamin C while eating, you're going to wind up with scurvy. And yet, I've literally taken several thousand people 4 weeks or longer, and 1,000 people 6 weeks or longer, and we've never seen anybody develop scurvy. Okay, so something is shifting in terms of the body's needs for nutrition while fasting. It's just a different situation. Okay, so I apologize. One of the problems of doing this, I'm doing this on my laptop. I'm sitting here comfortably on the couch because I had someone working on my desktop computer right over here. She's now left the room, but she went to eat some breakfast. She's here assisting me and was working on a project. She's actually working on editing my book. And anyway, I'm on my laptop, and the problem is that what gives you the best view isn't what gives me the best view of the questions and comments. So sometimes I have to make an adjustment to really read what's going on here. Judy, good to see you too. Sheer says, do you recommend taking B12 for raw vegans who never fasted? Well, I recommend paying attention to B12 status. Most people are B12 deficient, but taking B12 isn't really the answer. It's one answer, it's an answer, but it's not the answer I'd recommend for most people, because taking supplements creates imbalances and begins to develop a dependency in the body. Okay, so we want now, again, I mean, B12 can create serious problems like brain damage. For those of you who haven't already developed any brain damage, you might want to be careful. I don't have to worry so much about that, perhaps. But what I would do is simply pay attention. Be aware of everything going on. If you've got something happening, you're not sure what it is, take a look and see if it might be related to actual B12 deficiency. B12 blood tests for B12 aren't very reliable. You can get an MMA test, urine test to test your methylmalonic acid, which is a better indicator of actual B12 status. But theoretically, if there's an issue, and like let's say that you get a test, it looks like you've got some symptoms, and you're showing up as being deficient B12. It might make sense to supplement temporarily, just to bring things up to a healthy place. And you might need to do that for a little while. But the body can store B12, and so you should be able to top things up and be okay for a while. They say like 7 years. You can store it. Get plenty and top it up, and then deal with the underlying issue. Okay, fast to give the body the chance to cleanse and heal itself, because that's what you're actually going to need to do to actually correct the underlying issue. Okay, that's what I would do. The sheriff says, I'm just back to exercising after my foot surgery, 2 months of inactivity. My stamina in my soccer game last night was so much worse than before. Thoughts on best ways to get back to my old shape? Okay. Hello, buddy. Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any real magic here. You've probably had plenty of experience as an athlete, and so the way to get back into shape is to just be doing it. Work on those things. I mean, what I would do is high intensity interval training. So short bursts of intense activity, like running up a hill, for instance, is very powerful. That would be a good way to develop, redevelop that endurance as quickly as possible. All right. Thank you, JS. JS says, great philosophy, Loren. I'm not sure exactly what he was referring to, but I appreciate the comment. It sounds like a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment anyway. Jennifer says, how do you get enough B12? Well, Jennifer, just like the animals that the meat eaters get their B12 from, B12 is manufactured by bacteria in the body. And we have tons of bacteria in the body. They don't all make B12. But of the roughly 700 trillion bacteria inside the average human body, there are ample bacteria making B12. And so theoretically, there's several times, maybe many times, the B12 we need in the body every day. All we have to do is get the body clean and hydrated, so we have enough hydrochloric acid in the stomach to break down protein, because B12 is always tied to protein. Once we can break down the protein, we can shear off the B12. The B12 becomes available to us. And so I've been so far able to be perfectly fine as a vegan many years, 35 years, without taking any supplements. I believe it's possible to live healthfully as a raw vegan, fruit-based raw vegan forever without ever consuming B12 supplements, because we should be able to get it all from what's inside the body. And science recently, by the way, has acknowledged that it is possible for some people to get their needs met from inside the body. I believe it's possible for all people to get their needs met that way, as long as the body is clean, well-functioning, and well-hydrated. Okay, that's going to be the key. All right, we have another donation here from Plant-Based Ethos, who says, hi, Loren, what are your thoughts on things that stop the body from naturally detoxing, like the use of deodorants and antiperspirants? Okay, so first of all, antiperspirants and deodorants are two very different things. They have the same basic, let's see, they're both addressing the same issue, right, which is perspiration and its odor. But antiperspirants are chemicals that actually prevent you from perspiring, okay? Now, to me, this is crazy. This is crazy, because we perspire to cool down, to a lesser degree to detoxify. we don't want to prevent this from happening. This is what's supposed to happen. This is what needs to happen in a healthy body. We don't want to stop this from happening. Okay, so I would never use an antiperspirant and never recommend using one. Not ever. I mean, never, ever, ever would I recommend antiperspirants. Now, deodorants are designed to simply kill the bacteria that create the odor. And so, I don't use deodorants. I don't own a deodorant. For years, I had a crystal. And if you're going to use a deodorant, this is a safer way to do it. Hello, Chai. Come here, buddy. Come here, buddy. You can use one of these crystals, it's a natural substance, which isn't harmful because it doesn't contain toxic chemicals. There's Chai. There's Chai's back. There's Chai. Hello, buddy. But ideally, what you want to do is allow the body to do whatever it needs to. Get the body clean so that there is no nasty odors, right? I mean, what I find is that as long as I keep my diet as clean as possible, I don't smell bad. Now, as soon as I go eat like a gourmet raw vegan meal, or even a meal that contains any significant, I mean, I usually don't eat nuts and seeds at all, but if I eat any significant quantity of concentrated fat, even too much avocado, or a little bit of coconut flesh, I'll have a stronger body odor the next day. And I won't feel as good. So it's not like, body odor is a little stronger, but there's some benefit somehow. I'm not benefiting in any way from eating that way. I mean, I do it because it tastes good, or it's convenient, or that whatever it is. I mean, maybe there's a meal, but it's always going to be a detriment to me. So, but big difference between antiperspirants and deodorants. So I don't recommend ever using antiperspirants. I would encourage people to avoid using deodorants as well, but only when, if you need to go work in an office, or if you're in some sort of field where you have to be associating with the public and you don't smell good, that's not going to work very well. So the key would be to actually fast, get your body clean, and then there's no more odor. Okay, this is why I don't use soap or deodorant or anything like that. And there's just no need to. Okay, there's no need for it anymore once the body is clean enough. Okay, I think I scrolled up too far. Here we go. All right. Hello, Money. How are you? Good to see you. Alex asks, will fasting cure HPV? Well, nothing cures anything. I mean, the body heals itself. There are no cures, so to speak. I understand your question, but I like to be as clear as possible. I don't want anyone to think that this is some magical thing, because cures are magic. They just don't. It doesn't exist. That's not real. But yeah, I mean, can we cure herpes, HPV? I don't know. The experts say that the HPV virus, once it enters the body, is always in the body. And I can't prove that that's not the case. But we have many people who are positive for HPV, but never, ever have any symptoms. They come in being occasionally symptomatic, some people always symptomatic. After fasting and maintaining a clean diet, the symptoms disappear. As long as I keep making great choices, there can be no symptoms whatsoever. And so, I can't say, is that because it's now gone? Is it really, do we heal it, like eliminate it from the body? I don't know. Maybe not. But does it matter? I mean, is it a problem if it lives in your body like all the other, 700 trillion organisms? What if there's this other thing living in the body, but it never affects us negatively? I don't really care. I mean, maybe it's in there. Who cares, right? If it never affects me, if I feel amazing and have tons of energy and it never in any way negatively impacts me, doesn't really matter so much. Okay. Shir says, what are your thoughts on the body positivity movement and the fat shaming concept that's going on in the US right now? Okay, so I'm not so aware of what's going on in the US right now, but so the fat shaming concept, Fat shaming concept. So when you say fat shaming concept, I mean, I think fat shaming has always been around. Um, and I think the body positivity movement, for those people who may not have heard of this, I haven't actually heard that term before, but I think what this is about is those people who say you should be, it's like it's good to be however you are is perfectly fine. Like there's nothing wrong with being obese. You should feel positive about that, etc. And I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, I believe everybody should learn to love themselves. We are divine creative beings. We're part of that divine creative energy of the universe. We're creating everything, right? We're part of that energy. And I think it's perfectly appropriate that we feel good about ourselves and, love ourselves. I think who we are is unconditional love. It just doesn't always show up that way because of all the crap that we're carrying around, all the beliefs about not being good enough and about being broken and about being unlovable, etc. And so we want to get to the place that we love ourselves completely. But I think what's true is that when you love yourself, you treat your body, the vehicle, as well as possible. And so loving myself means that I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to take care of my body, my temple, right? I'm going to take care of it. And this is, I think, where the body positivity movement might be off a little bit. There's an underlying positive message that says you should be okay with yourself. But it's okay to be okay with yourself and to realize that I could do better. I could be better, right? I mean, I think we can always do and be better. I don't have a problem with obesity. Okay, no one's going to fat shame me. The opposite, perhaps. But that doesn't mean I can't always be improving in various ways. And so, again, loving ourselves doesn't mean that we become complacent and that whatever it is, whatever things are, is perfectly fine. I love myself, so nothing needs to change. No, I love myself, and because I love myself, I want to consistently make better choices. I want to take better care of myself. I want to, be the best role model I can be because I love the world, because I love every organism. I want to ensure that I'm making choices that are not only in line with taking care of my health, but are also helping the planet on a planetary basis. I mean, we want to stop a cycle of violence, right? That's animal products. B, we want to stop doing things that are destructive to the environment, which is also animal products and processed foods, right? So the choices I make reflect my love for myself and the rest of the world, right? Everything. And I think what's true is that we want to be positive, but we want to be positive in the way that we actually love ourselves as well. Okay, I hope that makes sense. All right, somehow I scrolled down, and let me see if I can now get back up here. Where were we? Should some fast if the person is in a city center zone with potentially a lot of cell phone tower radiation around? Okay, well, fasting would still be useful no matter where you are. You're probably going to be well served to fast. Your body's going to be better able to deal with that radiation while fasting than while eating. Of course, being in a clean, natural environment free of that radiation would be even better. I love the fact that we have almost no cell phone signal here. If I look at my cell phone, which I don't have here with me, I guess I don't know where it is right now, but I don't see it. But anyway, if I look at my cell phone, it will say no service. Okay, if actually it's probably on airplane mode because I usually keep it on airplane mode when I'm not using it. And so when I leave here, I'll activate it. I'll go to town today and I'll turn it on so I can get messages from my staff while I'm gone. But there's virtually no service. Even when it's working, it's virtually no service here. That's great. We have no Wi-Fi here because we don't want to be bombarding our bodies with this toxic radiation. Okay. Sheer says, thanks for all your wisdom. Oh, Sheer, thank you so much. You're very, very welcome. I'm happy to share whatever I can. Thanks for your kind comments. I appreciate that. Okay. There's a message here I hadn't seen. Cheryl, thank you so much for the donation. I think I might have forgotten to acknowledge a previous donation. I'm not sure, but Cheryl, thank you very much. Cheryl says, hi, Loren, can you give me advice on diet or fasting for skin cancer? Would like to go from a standard American diet to an all-fruit diet. Yeah, there is nothing more powerful than fasting for cancer. There are cancers that won't respond very well because it's too late, because of the condition of the body. But fasting is the very best we can do to allow the body to actually heal. Most cancer treatments are all about suppressing the symptoms, right? So we eliminate tumors either surgically or with radiation or chemotherapy, toxic substances that harm the body. And we eliminate the tumor, we eliminate those cells, but we're actually increasing the very conditions that create cancer. And so cancer comes back. And, again, it's tempting to say, wow, these guys are morons. Why don't they see this? Unfortunately, the much darker view is that they're not morons. They see this. They understand that treatment causes cancer. They understand that, okay? This is called a client retention program, right? We treat you now, and within 5 years, you're going to be back because you're going to get cancer again. That's what happens to most people who develop cancer. If they're not dead, they're sick again later on. The truth is they were never really well, okay? They eliminated the tumor, but they did nothing about the underlying issue, what actually caused the tumor. Tumor is just a symptom. So if it were me, Cheryl, what I would do is I would definitely do a supervised fast. It should be at least 21 days, possibly longer, depending on the other circumstances. If you're interested, and I would only do this with experienced guidance because doing it correctly makes all the difference in the world. All the difference in the world. We literally hear from people all the time. This came up here recently, a week or two ago. We had 30-some people fasting, and someone mentioned that they'd fasted before and that it never come close to feeling the same benefits that they were getting here. And so I said, well, I'm not surprised. And I asked the group, how many of you, raise your hand if you've also fasted before? And then I said, and how many of you feel like you got just as many benefits fasting on your own as you're getting here and now? And no one raised their hand. No one. Okay. I think everyone felt perfectly free to tell the truth. It's like, there's no shame. It's okay. We're not going to, it's not going to do anything. We want people to be truthful about what's going on for them. But having that experience guidance makes all the difference in the world. If I can help you, feel free to write to me. You can email me, Loren@TanglewoodWellnessCenter.com. But my recommendation would be, for instance, to come spend a minimum of 4 weeks, probably between 4 and 6 weeks for most people with us here. You'll leave here eating optimally because you'll clean all the garbage out of your body. Your body will then have gone through all the transitioning it needs to. You'll be ready to continue eating the same diet we refeed you on. But the cancer itself will likely be eliminated, and you will dramatically detoxify the body and boost your immune function because it's toxicity and poor immune function that cause cancer. And so you can actually address the exact conditions, the reasons that the cancer is formed in the first place so that it doesn't come back. And of course, again, unfortunately, I wish I could say it's a guarantee that you'll be cancer-free. Unfortunately, each situation is different. And it just depends. But it's the very best thing you can do, in my opinion. So that's what I would do. Okay, if I can help you further, let me know. All right. Let's see. Where were we? I had scrolled down to see this message. And I think I've missed some things here. I see Sherry has also made a donation. Thank you, Sherry. Sherry says, I came late, but how often do you test your B12? I don't test my B12. I am completely confident in my body's ability to get what it needs from the diet that I eat and from inside the body. And I'm completely cognizant about how I feel. And so if I was experiencing any symptoms that suggested I might have a B12 deficiency, it wouldn't be a huge surprise because, again, most people believe if you're not eating animal products, you have to take B12. This has been, drilled into me and ingrained. So over the years, I thought, okay, maybe it's going to show up right? I keep looking. I'm not seeing anything that suggests either a B12 deficiency or any deficiency of any kind. As long as I get enough sleep and continue to do everything else that I normally do, I feel and function like miraculously well, especially for my age. I took a group of people on a hike yesterday, and I was waiting for them many times. It's just what happens. But anyway, I don't test. I don't test, and I wouldn't test unless I felt the specific need for it. Now, I had to get a physical done for a life insurance policy, which was required to secure a mortgage here because of my business. They said, "What if something happens to you? Who's going to take over?" Well, there's no one right now to take over. So, in order to make sure they get paid back, I bought a life insurance policy to cover the cost of the mortgage balance. And they required a full physical. My blood tests were all perfectly fine. But, I've never gone and had a specific test for B12 because I'm completely unconcerned about it and pretty aware of what's going on in my body. Okay. So never needed to do anything like that. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Oh, let me see here. Oh, Sherry also asked me how behind am I on my emails. Pretty behind. If you emailed me, feel free to email me again and remind me, because I'm seeing the current ones, but I'm having trouble getting back to the old ones. And so if you've emailed me and I haven't responded yet, feel free to email me and just remind me that you're waiting to hear from me, and I'll do my best to get to you as quickly as I can. Okay? Oh, hello there, Ash. How you doing, buddy? All right. I'm sorry, I keep scrolling back and forth because I'm seeing things showing up not where I expected them to be. ITAC made a donation I hadn't noticed before, 10 euros. Thank you, ITAC. Hi, Loren. Is it possible you carry your last meal the entire fasting period in your intestines? That is possible. It's not very likely. First of all, if your last meal is a bunch of white bread, then yes, it's pretty likely to happen, because this is stuff that has no water and no fiber, and it's going to have a very hard time moving through the body. And if you were to consume a big salad afterward or a bunch of fruit afterward, it might move some of that stuff through. But for the average person, yeah, this absolutely could happen, where they eat their last meal and then it gets stuck. Now, I encourage everyone to eat as well as possible. And if people are eating as well as possible, then this shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't happen, but it could happen. It's entirely possible that it does sometimes. Most people are going to begin fasting. They're going to eliminate their last meal on around day 2 to day 4 of the fast. And there's still going to be some stuff stuck in there, but most of the bulk of what they eat at that point should be out of the system. Now, we fast people all the time who have big bellies. This session, we probably had 4 or 5 people like that so far. Where the average person loses 11 pounds the first week, we've had people lose as many as close to 40 pounds the first week. And so where someone's walking in with a big belly, that's just not fat. There's often a lot of old material in there. There's multiple meals that are slowly working their way through the intestine. And that means that these people are going to have bowel movements every single day while they're fasting. Could happen every single day. Okay, that's what happens sometimes. All right. So I see there are many more comments here, and I'm so sorry. I'm not sure. I'm scrolling back and forth, and I'm a little confused as to where these things aren't showing up. I guess I gotten out of order here. It's funny sometimes when I scroll, it feels like I'm scrolling way too fast, and before I know it, I've passed. I've gone way past where I should be. So I think I've now responded to all of the contributors, and the timing is good. And I feel really, really sad about the fact that there are so many other comments here I can't get to. I'll just remind you that if you make a donation, now I'm going to have to jump off here because I've got a couple people starting refeeding today, and they have their first meal in 15 minutes, and I need to go see them before they eat. And so I'm going to have to cut this off here today. I'm jumping off at around 9:45 to 10. Just a couple of quick comments. If next time, if you make a donation, then I'll get to your question right away. Because, again, this is what usually happens. We've got 70 some people here, and it's going to be hard to get to all the questions and comments. So if you donate, it means I'll serve you right away. Okay, you'll get your questions answered for sure. That helps you and it helps me. And unfortunately, with the rest of you, I'd like to say I'll get back to these comments, but the truth is, it's not that likely. I'm so busy; it's hard for me to get back and actually respond to all the comments later on. So I will be back next Friday at 9 a.m. Costa Rica time, and I look forward to seeing you then. I hope you join me. I'm always going to be here when we're open, whenever I can be. It's almost always 9 a.m. Costa Rica time. Remember that we have a fruit festival coming up in just over a month. It's the 1st of March to the 8th of March. It's going to be an amazing event. If you can get here, I would strongly encourage you to get here. Marike, I feel bad because I know I owe you an email. Yes, dogs. Yes, dogs will be possible. We'll talk. I'll still write to you when I get a chance to, but I'm just so far behind. It's just crazy here. So let me see what else. Yeah, I think that's it for now. I'll look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you have a fantastic week, and I hope you take good care of yourself. See you soon. Bye-bye.